Yeah, we have a couple of artists we're actually next phase. Hey.
Melisa. Yeah.
Why don't you grab your pizza and take a seat? We're about to start. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I am really excited to hear from all of you about your incredible projects. For our first ever What Can We Do microgrant program. And reviewing these projects, it was just so affirming, so inspiring. I was very fortunate to participate and witness some of them in real life. Others I've just seen pictures that are so adorable and so wonderful. So I'm very excited that you're all here tonight to be able to hear from each other, meet each other, and learn about each other's programs. So I'm Lisa Gold. I'm the executive director of A4, and just a quick accessibility check. I am, for those watching at home, we are live streaming on Facebook. I'm a halfway, half Korean, middle-aged woman in a black dress, covered in dog hair, and I'm wearing this amazing boba tea ring that I got at the Lima jewelry at the 88 East Fair in Chinatown last weekend. I love it. Okay, so those of you who I'm assuming everybody knows A4 or has heard of us. That's why you're here. But we are, for those of you who don't know or aren't that familiar with us, we are dedicated to ensuring greater equity, opportunities, and representation for AAPI artists and arts organizations. And we do that through resource sharing, promotion, and community building, just like this program. So, oh yeah, so this is the program here. If you need to use Wi-Fi, that's the password there. That's the network. If you want to share, please feel free to take photos and share. What can we do? Hashtag what can we do? Hashtag A4. Tag us. Just quick housekeeping. If you need a restroom, it's out the door to the right, and then your first right. We did the internet. Please mute your phones. That would be really nice and not ring while people are speaking. And again, help yourself to pizza and drinks there. Okay, so before we get started, I want to share a couple of upcoming events and do a very quick land acknowledgement. So, all right, so coming up very soon, October 21st, Friday at 6:30 p.m., we are celebrating Filipino Heritage Month with an online panel organized by our recent Shooting Long Fellow, Marie Lloyd Hasty. And this program is entitled Filipinx American Futures, Urging the Horizon. And they will share, it's going to be online, so you don't have an excuse not to watch us. We will record it, then it'll be on our YouTube channel as well. But it's going to share intergenerational perspectives about migration, sexuality, mobility, and other topics. And then on Tuesday, November 15th, we're going to present our last town hall of the year. And this one is going to focus on writing and the literary arts, poetry, spoken word. And that is also going to take place via Zoom because we will be moving 2 days later to Midtown. So we'll be very close to K-Town. Sad to lose this space, but come and visit. We'll have a housewarming party with our neighbors night there. Final reminder, for good town hall. So yeah, share your work with us, your projects, anything you have coming up. It's super easy to post on our website. It's free, it's easy to do, and then we will pull events like that to include in our newsletter that goes out every other week. So we want to share what you're doing and help amplify that. So before we start, I need to say thank you. So thank you to the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the New York City Council, the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Legislature, the National Endowment for the Arts, the New York Community Trust, the Howard Gilman Foundation, Con Edison, Vila, Fiskars, the Teeger Foundation, and many generous individuals for making these programs possible. And I would like to give a very, very special shout out to the Asian American Federation, who directly supported the What Can We Do program with a grant from the Asian American Community Fund. So thanks to all of them. And our friend Fiskars, we have scissors in the back if anybody needs set of amazing scissors. They're really good. So they feel free to take those. And of course, if you want to be among our list of supporters, we would be happy to oblige you. So feel free to text us or go online at the URL there. Okay, very quick land acknowledgement, because we're meeting here in the land of the Canarsie and Muncie Lenape peoples, but there are people joining us at home or in various places online. So we're going to share a digital land acknowledgement, which was written by Canadian theater artist Adrienne Wong. So since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We're using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many indigenous communities. And even the technologies that are central to much of the art that we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect indigenous peoples worldwide. So I invite you to join me in acknowledging all of this, and as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time, and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. And now I will hand it over to our program director, Justine Lee, who is going to take us through introducing the artists and what's next.
Hi, everyone. Telling you a lot, and kind of nice to be able to just like interact in a different mode. So what can we do? Started with a very simple idea. We wanted to give artists the space and the funds to feel powerful and effective in giving back and caring for our community in New York City during a really challenging time for us. So we created a very simple application process and randomly selected 30 artists. We gave each artist $500 upfront to carry out their community care project. And as was tonight, the projects really ranged in form. All were very powerful. In fact, as I was working on the slides later this evening last night, I found myself tearing up, feeling immense pride for the artists in their work. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you to each of you, for those of you who are here with us physically and those who are here in spirit. Just really appreciate you. As you can see, I'm walking on the screen there. In our first year, we were able to reach more than 50,000 people, and there's some other numbers here. The projects, there are 28 projects among 30 artists over the course of 2 months in August and September, 4 boroughs, 15 neighborhoods, 11 community organizations either benefited or partnered with. And there's 6 grants involved. So pretty cool summary here. But for me, I'd really like to turn it over to the artists to share about their projects. This is our fine list of artists. By the way, creating this in Keynote, there's so many squigglies, you know, the squigglies when the word is not recognized by the dictionary. And I found that so frustrating. So I'm like, learn the spelling is an option. So these names are here now without squigglies. Okay, so we're going to go in alphabetical order by first name, and each artist will have up to 5 minutes to present. And so for the artists who are unable to make it in person, we're going to play a video that they pre-recorded especially for tonight, or we're going to present on their behalf. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Anjali.
Nice to meet everyone here. My name is Anjali Deshmukh. And I'm Karesia. And for a little over 10 years, my work has been what I would describe as a practice of democracy. Activating public spaces for creatively creating spaces for people to use their voice independently with their communities and typically in public environments and often outside. I went from creating art for walls to actually finding ways to think about how we can turn an audience into a participant, into a maker. And often in spaces where I was supposed to meet them where they are, rather than they meet me where I am. And over that time, I found that even the briefest moments, even a small moment of design can spark voices, but it can also spark change. And it can also spark healing and as an extension of the creative expression. So I think now more than ever, as I look around this room, our communities need public spaces to serve this purpose for us. And that is one of the reasons that we're here today. Let's see what about you.
And actually, one of the reasons that we're here today is because of A4, because Anjali and I actually met at a town hall in 2013. And I come to the practice primarily as a literary artist, as a poet, and Anjali and I just connected in terms of like what we want art to do in the world. And I also come to my art practice with a background doing anti-violence work. I used to be the executive director at Connections of South Asian Women, and I do a lot of work around gender-based violence still and racial equity. So to me, art is also a form of activism and a space to create community healing. So in this project that we're going to talk about, we drew upon a project that we did in 2017 called Make Yourself Meet, Make Yourself Fast. And that explores sort of the body space, and particularly for those of us in marked bodies, whether through race, whether through orientation, whether through ability, age, what does it look like to feel ourselves in space? So as we were thinking about doing this project this summer, we wanted to think about like also like what did it look like for people to co-create as we sort of like go into year 3 of a pandemic, and what does public space especially mean for us?
So the end result you see here is basically an installation, very simple installation on the ground, a wheel made of tea lights. And you can see there are squiggly spokes across the wheel. And we asked people 2 simple questions. The first was, how does this space give to you? And the second was, how do you give to this space? And it was a little bit of they were simple questions, but actually they unfolded into more complex conversations that we guided people through to finally essentially taking 2 pieces of vinyl. One was orange and one was gold, and writing responses on each of them. And as you can see on some of these pictures, as the night fell, the candles were a little bit light, a little bit bright.
And so there's also this like play with like twilight. When we timed it, we started around 6 and ended around 7:30. So we were like thinking about change, thinking about ourselves and participation in democracy as a kind of light. And I think also it really highlighted some of the community needs and like what it means to be an artist in public space. Anjali had a very long conversation with a father of a special needs student whose kid had been moved out of the classroom. And so then I offered and suggested a South Asian resource in the neighborhood for him. And I also invited a couple of Spanish-speaking folks to participate because I can also speak Spanish. And so a couple of the responses are also in Spanish. So again, like what does art look like in community was part of what we were like not only exploring, but actually trying to embody as we did this project.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Audrey. I'm a dancer, teaching artist. I teach creative movement to pre-K and kindergartners in Flushing at PS 242. And I'm a nonprofit administrator as well. And my offering was a dance workshop. It was an hour and a half. It was free to the Asian American community. And it was really rooted in care, in exploration, in connection, and in play. So I was really excited about this because I wanted it to be accessible for all. Half the participants had never taken a formal dance class or been in a dance space before, so I was so honored that they felt comfortable enough to come to this workshop. And we started with a meditation, with breath work, moved to a follow along warm up, did some partner exercises, some improvisation, and then ended with a little choreographic task in writing. And it was so exciting to see how this shared experience of moving in space together really established this foundation of trust. And at the end of the workshop, I brought snacks and we gathered around and everyone was just so open. From our shared experience of dancing together that everyone just bursted out into conversation and we're exchanging phone numbers and making plans to meet out after the workshop. And that really just filled my heart. And I was on cloud 9 after this day and still, yeah. So that was my workshop. Thank you all so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Carolina Doe. For my project, I did a workshop reading a play that I've been spending about, I would say 5 or so years working on. It started out with interviews of both of my parents who were Vietnamese refugees who, funnily enough, met in a Vietnamese re-education camp. My mom's brother was my dad's cellmate. And so over like the course of 7 years, my dad and my uncle got to be dear friends. Growing up, I didn't really get to know much about my parents besides the little stories that they would drop for me over, dinner. Like they'd be like, my mom would be like, "What would you like to eat?" And then drop like a truth bomb. Like tell me about like some traumatic thing that happened to her. And so I decided to make it into a play that the synopsis of the play is that it's memory, wishful dreams, and maybe only somewhat true. A series of tortuously absurd family dinners are interrupted by glitches of memories of the past. Buried Ruins is about Vietnamese parents and daughters trying to get through to one another despite generational trauma, the force of cultural assimilation, and good, bad karaoke. And so I was able with this grant money to add to the amount that I was able to pay my artists. It was an all Vietnamese creative team, director, stage manager, actors, which if you told me this like 5 years ago in New York City, I would have been like, that's a joke. But we were able to do that. And during the course of it, I was able to do rewrites, and the process was the actors ended up sharing with me a lot of stories about themselves and their relationships with their parents, which, if you know anything about Vietnamese families and maybe Asian families, is that there can be a lot of tension between what you don't know, what you wish you knew, and things you wish your parents were. And we got to really talk about that, and I think there was a lot of healing that came out of it. Like, as you can see, like the cast really bonded with each other and actually took it upon themselves to go out to dinner with each other after rehearsal every day, and they started the presentation with a hug. And then we opened it up to a public presentation where predominantly like the folks in the audience were Asian American and or Vietnamese, which was truly magical, because I think in theater, it's very much predominantly for white folks, written for white folks to deal with white people problems. And most of the time we're kind of in the fringes. And so it was really nice to have this audience see themselves reflected on stage and also learn things that they might have not known about themselves or their parents. And I got a lot of great feedback from folks. One of the lines that I wrote that came out of the workshop was that at the end of the play, the uncle, who's based on my uncle, ends up visiting the daughter, and it's in this like liminal, ghostly ancestral space. And he ends up telling the daughter, his niece, you don't have to know everything about your parents to forgive them. And that line really resonated with a lot of folks and made a lot of folks call their parents. Yeah, I think that's it. And I feel like the effects of this grant really just gave me the confidence to have the space to do rewrites and expand the work and think about what it means to present the space, this play in non-theatrical settings, and what it means afterwards to have community spaces for folks to share their own stories. So thank you so much.
Sorry, I came a little late. Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy. So I'm a photographer, visual journalist. I made a zine of some of my photographs of Chinatown over the last couple of years. So when the pandemic hit, all photographers were flocking to Chinatown to take pictures of the empty streets. And that made me really sad, because as someone who has been documenting Chinatown for many years now, it just pained me to see the community that I love so much, just so desolate and struggling. So I did not go out to the empty streets and photograph that. And when the community started coming back and like building and coming together again, and in light of all the anti-Asian racism and violence and just everything that was going on in our neighborhoods, I wanted to capture the community really coming together instead of, this, like I document protests too. That's like, a lot of my work is in activism, social justice. And so as I was documenting the protests, I thought about how I wanted to also document our joy and us celebrating, just being us, just being alive, just existing in this space and existing in this country and existing in the city. So a lot of the photos that I put into the zine are of cultural events. A lot were organized by the Chinatown I'm also part of an art collective called Box Set, and we put on summer Chinatown block parties. Just this past summer, we put on 3 block parties on Moscow Street at the newsstand. I don't know if any of you all went to any of those block parties. Yeah, I know Kevin. I know and it was really just a way for us to, you know, come together and have some fun and just let loose a little bit, despite everything that's going on, the tension and the stress. And so documenting that for me was just, you know, pure joy, just pure, like, I just love the energy that people brought out into the streets and brought to these block parties and brought to these, you know, like all of our holidays that we celebrate in the New Year and Mid-Autumn Festival. And so my photos kind of include like a lot of that, like just the holiday festivals, the block parties, the cultural events, and just people hanging out, like, you know, all the outdoor build out that was being built up in Chinatown, you know, last year and the year before. Just people hanging out, eating. I have some portraits also of like business owners and residents of the neighborhood. So I sold out of the zine because I was only able to print a limited number. So I printed some extra. So I brought some just for people to pass around if people want to look through it. Okay, thanks.
No? So I guess I'll speak on behalf of Dana. Oh gosh. So Dana, yeah, this is a screenshot of a second of a music healing session that Dana produced for Womankind, which is a nonprofit organization that serves women who have dealt with domestic violence abuse. And so, you know, just to protect their privacy, we don't have photos of the actual community members he served, but you can see that it happened. This is proof. This is what he was able to submit for final report. So yeah, Dana, thank you for that. And then we'll go to the next artist, who is Esther. We also had an online program that I was able to attend. Oh, sorry, caught in the middle of a bite, but ready.
I'm really sorry I put pizza in my mouth. My name's Esther. It's like awkward to you in front of me. My name's Esther Choi. I'm an artist and historian. I teach at the Cooper Union, so I'm also an educator. And it was so I run a social practice project called Office Hours, which is a knowledge sharing project amongst BIPOC cultural workers, like artists, designers, architects. And it started about 2 years ago, and we've had about over 2,000 people at the global majority in over 20 nations across the world join these events online. It's all free of charge. So we've had a number of sessions in the past 2 years. I think we're at 39 events now. This was numbered Office Hours 39. And we have explored a lot of different issues around world making. So everything from starting your own practice as an architect or designer to restorative justice to community organizing. And so, you know, as a result, over the past 2 years, I've met a lot of incredible people, and a lot of people who have attended Office Hours have contacted me, and I've never met them in person, but you know, you get to know them over the years. And we've had a really unfortunate incident where one of our attendees, who was a young student, she was studying abroad, she's American and studying abroad, person of color, was assaulted by their professor, and was really terrified and didn't know what to do, and contacted me and ended up telling me about this incident. And so we went through the process of reporting the incident, and it's now being investigated. But as a result of that, and you know, when you look at the statistics of how many people of color have been sexually harassed, and it's a high percentage for LGBTQIA plus communities, as well as you know, people who identify as people of color, the percentages are so incredibly high, and the statistics are not, you know, it's like underreported. It's a huge problem. So out of that really troubling incident, I worked with the attendee to then think about sort of like, what do you wish you had known? And what are ways in which we could try to turn this experience into something that could maybe benefit others, because undoubtedly, given statistics, you know, I have been sexually assaulted, you know, like lots of people have been sexually assaulted, and it's not something that we really talk about, especially in professional settings. So we ended up with the incredible fortuitous micro grant that arose. Office Hours has been struggling with funding for this past year, and it's sort of turned into a different project, which is, you know, we'll get into. But it was so fortuitous to have come across this grant because I could pay a speaker. And so we were really lucky to have Sandra Park, who is a senior attorney at the ACLU and Women's Rights Project, who basically specializes in sexual harassment and sexual assault. Give an office hour session on the topic so people could understand their rights within educational and professional settings. And so office hours is not like a very visual project. I think it's the website sort of has more images that sort of tell the story of office hours, but basically we advertised through Instagram, and it sort of went viral through Instagram a couple years ago. And so people from all over the world have joined the events. And so we advertised this event on Instagram on our account. And, you know, people signed up, and yeah, we had a really intimate group, but I think it was really, really good that it was quite intimate, because people could, you know, share their own experiences, but also all, you know, have their questions answered. So basically, Sandra was really amazing. You know, spent the first 20 minutes sort of going through a sort of know your rights, you know, at least within the North American or mostly US context of sort of what provisions are available, and how, if you are going through this experience in an academic setting versus, like, you know, a kind of professional setting at work, sort of what would be the steps to take. So that was really helpful. And then the second part of office hours is always an interactive Q&A where people can ask their own questions. And one of the community agreements for office hours is that you have to turn your camera on, like accessibility and technologically permitting, so that you're present, and we don't post and circulate recordings of our sessions, so that we can really maintain a level of intimacy and honesty in the conversation. So people from all over the world joined, and, you know, were able to ask their questions directly to Sandra, and it was a really a lot of feedback that I got was really impactful. So yeah, I'm super grateful that this grant happened to arrive right at the moment where we needed it. And I know for the people that, you know, a lot of people share their experiences, and they're still kind of going through it, and especially for that student that is still kind of going through that process of reporting this incident. You know, they communicated to me that it was so meaningful and impactful for them to be able to transform that experience into something that could help other people. So yeah, so thank you so much for this grant. I mean, it was really amazing.
Video. Hi, my name is EunHea Kim. So I'm actually, I'm an interior designer and also an artist. I am a self-taught artist, and felt very honored to be a part of this group and a recipient of this grant, especially for as an AAPI female artist who is emerging, self-taught, and I've had what this grant has meant to me, and just having a lot of doors closed in my face. So this kind of helps in a lot of ways validate some of the things that I have always wanted to do and share. One of the projects that the project I did for this grant, so A4 actually connected me with a youth organization in Queens called SAYA, the South Asian Youth Action Group. And predominantly, I believe the youth that were there for this project was mostly high school and from college. This was a really interesting project because we were painting a series of panels that I created with the Saya team and weeks of planning on timeless themes of what community means to Saya and to the youth. They had done a focus group study and a survey from their own youth, I think earlier in the year. And so a lot of them had shared what they expressed, what community meant to them. And that could mean places, people, things, and things of that nature. So in this photo, we only see 2 of the 4 panels. And each panel has a theme. So this one here is, all 4 of them are now up. So each of them has a theme that represents different themes of Queens based on the different responses that we got. And it was a lot of responses, so I was trying to narrow it down. The first panel was plants that were native to Queens area. And then second panel was residential architecture that's unique to Queens. If you begin in Queens and even in other boroughs, each borough seems to have their own unique take on residential architecture. So that was something that was expressed, as well as the famous Unisphere. And then in the panel 3, we have the 2 bridges, Hell's Gate and Queensboro Bridge represented, as well as parks. And then in the last one, it was representing different buildings that make up a community. So that could be your local hair salon, your local grocery store, your local pizza shop and food cart and things of that nature. One of the things that was interesting about this project was when I met with them, the panels are actually going to be hung up in their main hallway, and in the Saya headquarters office, their offices are actually located in the basement of a church that they've been renting for over 20 years. So when you are renting in the basement of a church, there's limited things that you can do, and they wanted to really bring color and joy into the space, especially for new people coming in. What I learned through this project, especially working with youth from 9th grade and up to some college, especially more on the younger side, you know, with COVID that has been happening, a lot of them were not in school or in person for the last few years. So especially for the new ones, new students who were coming into Saya, this was kind of their first experience in being with other students. I also learned through many of the youth that arts programs in schools are practically non-existent. And they have art clubs or things of that nature, but nothing formal that they can actually be doing. Some other feedback that was surprising as well, and this was something in general, I think that was from everybody, was the fear of just doing painting. So what I did with these panels was I did a lot of just the main outlines, but there's a lot of blank space. And the blank space was also meant for students and staff to use your own imagination and paint what you want, what you think you want to add. And if it happened over a series of 4 days. So one student may have started on a Tuesday, another student picked it up on Thursday to finish. So, I mean, obviously the bridges are not in these colors, but it was also just about expressing joy and the imagination of what they wanted to do. So releasing that freedom in creative expression. And then lastly, the panels are also meant to be an identity of Saya. So it also has the Saya logo embedded within the graphics. So, thank you.
Hello. My name is Kang, and I am a sculptor by trade. I carve stone and wood. I'm also an art therapist. And coming out of the pandemic, I actually did some sewing during the pandemic and using that as an art form and creating stories through sewing. So I was loving the process of binding and creating something with color too. Because with the stone, I just have the color of the stone. I could paint it, but usually I just keep it natural. So there were 2 things that were on my mind as we come out of the pandemic and things are opening up, how do we enter into community? What does community look like? It's an opportunity for community to be different in New York City. And then also with the rise of anti-Asian American violence and hatred, etc. That was really on my mind. So I had created an idea that my project is called Start With My Name. And so how do we connect with one another? How do we create a safe space? And as an art therapist, that's very important to me, where we can create and have a space of vulnerability, a space to share who we are and our stories. So I was able to connect with MoCA, the Museum of Chinese in America, and do 2 workshops, actually. The first one, we worked and people were able to, it was an interesting process because I learned a lot. As someone who doesn't like sewing, I have clothes without buttons on them for like 5 years. So I learned a lot about sewing and about needles, etc. And we actually used washable markers. So it's actually a fun process. After sewing, you could wash it and your name just kind of appeared in a clearer way. I got materials from the arts, worked really closely with A4 on just meeting lots of different communities and organizations in Chinatown. And I actually will be doing another workshop at the Mensch Society at Grand Street Settlement House on October 15th, which I'm really excited about, and continuing it actually. But it was lovely to be able to do this project at the museum itself and have kind of a safe internal space. So I would love to do this outdoors also. Like my mind just goes in a million directions. So there's so many possibilities that we can do. So and you can see actually here, the quilt started as something different. Can you hold this for a second? And things have been growing and changing. And so then this is actually what we have right now, which I think is so beautiful. And someone said it looks like a shirt, which is kind of cool. Yeah? How much? Auction. So there's different names, different people, different nationalities. And it was really beautiful for people to start thinking about the heritage, where they came from, and what their name means, and what it means for their family. Like this one woman, she wrote, Inez named me after Lola. This one gentleman, Ray, he wasn't gonna come, but then his friend said, oh, it's your birthday, well, let's hang out, come to this thing. And he's half Indian, half American. And his parents chose a name that would fit both. So I was like, oh, is it a shortened name? He goes, no, it's Ray. I was like, oh, that's really beautiful. So, and it's just like the pride and just being able to enter into a space where they are valued. Like you were saying, like when you're putting the names up, it's like, wrong or red line, right? Or names. And so it was kind of a beautiful thing to be able to celebrate the people. And this is my heart's desire actually, is for walls to be broken down. So I started with the AAPI community, but I would like to work with other communities and actually create a huge quilt. I mean, just as I said, my mind goes into crazy direction. So maybe this will become, I don't know, enormous and we can hang it somewhere. So thank you.
Great.
Keep it.
So, I think I'm going to sit here for a minute.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Georges Bridges, and I'm the community outreach liaison for the Asian American Film Lab. And I'm here to talk about one of our projects, which is discrimination. So discrimination is a multidisciplinary showcase of stories based on narratives from victims, perpetrators, and witnesses to anti-Asian bias and crimes. And this project was basically funded by the Asian American Arts Alliance, which was so grateful. And it's the What Can We Do grant, and as I mentioned, funded by the Asian American Arts Alliance. A lot of it will be on Crossings TV, which you can view. You can actually go to our website, AsianAmericanFilmLab.com, where you can listen to a lot of the narratives. Some of them took place in New York, but basically all across the country. Some of them, many of them will be familiar to you, and stories that you have possibly crimes and bias incidents that you may have heard of. And I'm sure you're aware that a lot of these incidents are not reported. Some of them are reported, but not given the attention that they should be given. So that's where we come in, and we hope that people like you can help us to spread the word and stop anti-Asian crimes and violence and discrimination. And as you can see here, where it says that it premieres on Crossings TV, and I should probably mention our president, Jennifer Yen, who has been so such a force in this in trying to help stop discrimination, not just against Asians, but against everyone. And so this program was co-created by our president of the Asian American Film Lab, Jennifer Yen, and Ray Lanuza, who's also an employee of the Asian American Film Lab. And some of the people that I should probably mention that have also helped are Tyler Pong and Aaron No, just to name a few. I'm sure I left out some of the other people. But if you could go to our website and listen to some of the stories, and if you can help in any way, it would be much appreciated. Thank you very much.
I guess I will. So Laura organized this really incredible rice punching ceremony in the Sarah D. Roosevelt Park in Chinatown. And essentially, rice punching is an act. You punch the rice and it becomes basically like mochi. And so it's typically an act performed by men. So Laura wanted to actually subvert that tradition and invite AAPI women and femmes to punch rice together and kind of let out some steam. It was really fun to watch and to participate in, and interspersed there were readings in Chinese and English. These readings were letters and poems that folks had written to their mothers, ancestors, and so forth. But yeah, it was really cool. There was a really great crowd, and it was going on for like an hour. Yeah, this is Laura's piece, and I'm gonna transition.
Thank you. you. So I'm a photographer. I'm a full-time creative, and with the micro grant that I got, I wanted to like fulfill this personal project that I had in mind. Basically, it's triggered by the fact that I had a grandpa pass away earlier this year, and I grew up with both sets of my grandparents, so that was like a really real moment in kind of like recognizing that our mortality. But with my background in photography, we had a project early 2021, so end of 2020, where I worked with some businesses in Chinatown, and we did this calendar because there was a lack of celebration, joy, or anything in Chinatown because of pandemic and also because of hate crimes. So from doing that project, I really connected with a lot of small businesses in the area and with a lot of organizations, and I found that creating this kind of work is really cathartic for me and healing, and I realized that it really resonated with a lot of people. So this project in particular, I had no title for it, but it's kind of about like the past, present, and the present future of our Asian American multi-hyphenate identities. And so past, present meaning kind of like looking back at my childhood and growing up Asian American. I'm first generation, firstborn, so that's like really, I think it's a really specific multi-hyphenate with a certain set of responsibilities. And for this one, I photographed some backgrounds in Chinatown. I don't know if anybody recognizes that. This is a parking garage wall in Chinatown. And then I also found some items in my personal archives, borrowed from friends. I also worked with KK Discounts and Leong to grab some of their items to also highlight as they were participating businesses to help distribute these posters. So yeah, this one is super nostalgic for me, and I was really happy with the reception in that people also related. I did this for myself first, so I was really happy with that. And then this one is present future to kind of acknowledge, the habits and that is passed down to us from our grandparents or our parents. For this one is very personal because of just the way my grandma would do the dishes and the way she would stack them is very strategic to dry them at the same time. And then just little bits that are personal to me, and I hope also I know that some people also saw it and really resonated with them. This background is also a shot of Roosevelt Park to also highlight that. Yeah, so also to give away these posters, the only thing I asked was go to these stores and you spend $10 or more and you get this poster for free. So I used all the funds to purchase props and basically poster printing expenses and things. And then each store, which was KK, Nguyen, and EunHea books, they each got 100 posters to give away with all their orders, which basically with the $500 micro grant put back about $3,000 back into Chinatown. And I'm really happy with that success because this one launched about 2-3 weeks ago. So they're almost gone. But yeah, anyways, I'm really happy to have gotten that money and push this out and that it was really well received. And I hope to do more. I don't think there are any posters left, but KK is going through fire renovation. So when they reopen, I know they saved just a few. And I only have this one on sale on my web shop to give all of those profits to Heart Dinner. That's all.
Oh, okay. Okay, just a few words maybe. Okay.
Yeah, so Nancy can't make it, but her sister Joyce mom. So she created this short called Horizon Experts, and Horizon is the language dialect in the US spoken by the first Chinese immigrants in America and in global Chinatowns. That's her, and her short is about just having this 5 characters truly speak mockumentary style, answer different questions. She did it on Horizon, or it's also known as Taishanese or Horizon if you're Cantonese and English. And yeah, an actress, so she did all these 5 characters. She subtitled it. There's a lot of humor in it, and the culmination event was held in Essex Crossing. Lisa and Justine were there, and we were so glad that folks were able to come and just see this short, as well as just the feedback. I heard some feedback about how they've never been able to speak to their parents, like for second generation, first generation, about such issues, mental health, and how this inspired them to want to have that conversation, as well as just hearing Horizon in a public space when you usually don't hear in the mainstream was very powerful. And this picture is that's her second grade teacher. She went to kids grade 2, and the seed came up to her, and then they took a picture together, and they reconnected after like so many years. I know. And a bunch of other folks came up. I know Minerva is part of a place for kids, so a bunch of folks in a Chinatown, an Asian American kind of nonprofit space. So this is a great event. And there's also another screening that she's having in 21 Pel, if y'all can make it, if you want to make it, on October 16th, Sunday, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Once again, I'm not Nancy, but if you want to reach her and connect with her, let me know.
Hi everyone, my name is Noah. I am a dancer, performer, choreographer, origin from California, and now I live here. My project was a dance presentation at the Arts on Site Theater on St. Mark's Place on 8th Street. And the piece was entitled All That We Hold. It was a duet. It is a duet that I actually choreographed with Audrey, who presented earlier. We went to high school together and been good friends and collaborators ever since. Love you. But All That We Hold is a piece that we did originally in 2021 as part of the United States of Asian American Festival in San Francisco, where we're both from. And it was our first performance back from the pandemic, like our first live performance. So it has a very special place in our hearts. And because of the A4 grant, we were able to bring it to New York, which was super exciting. And to bring it indoors, we originally did it outdoors in San Francisco Chinatown, which was really cool because we were really presenting like to the community, to our family who live in the city and live in that area. And so to take all of that goodness and all of what we learned from that and to bring it to New York was very special. Yeah, so a little bit about the piece. We wanted to explore connections with our ancestors and people in our family. So we actually, when creating the piece, we asked ourselves some questions just about our time as young artists in the pandemic, and also about what we knew about our living ancestors and not living. But we ended up interviewing, we each picked a relative and we went and interviewed them. I interviewed my Auntie Sue on like her front stoop in San Francisco, and just the stories that she told about her life that I've never heard before really, really surprised me and really like gave me a much more well-rounded picture of her. And so we each brought those narratives and those like sound bites into our piece, both through our movement and through the music and the soundscape. Our other friend from high school, Eric, also known as Clyde Dimension, you can find him on Spotify. He composed all of the music, also an Asian American artist, super talented. And so we really got to build this piece up from the ground, which was super special. And is there anything else? Oh, we did, as a sort of interactive element, we wanted to sort of bring the audience in the second production at Arts on Site. And so we actually, we have these little program handouts, which we have a few if you want to take a look. But we basically pose the questions that we ask ourselves when creating the work to the audience, just for them to ponder. We left space to respond or to take home with them. So let me know if you'd like to look at this. I can pass them around like the magazine. But yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay, here we go. All right, not bad. Hi, everybody right there. You're missing out on a lot of great stuff here. Got a lot of beautiful people here. So we're at the second half of the show right now. What's good? What's good? Can I get an ah? Can I get an A? Can I get a woo? We're awake. Maybe. Take off the mask. My name is Chen, and I'm gonna move out so you can see what you see here. And I'm an actor and storyteller. So I created something called the Blue Room. The genesis of this was back in 2020. As an actor, all film productions, theater productions were just shut down. So instead, I just started filming in my own bedroom, and my bedroom's walls are painted blue. So I called it the Blue Room. And I created different characters. I had one character that was called Joey Bomb. He's kind of this free-spirited stoner Asian kid. I had this other character called Mike Cheng. He's the classic hyper-masculine Asian frat bro. Love you guys. And then there was me as the host. And every episode, we would talk about a different current event that was happening during 2020. And one of the big ones was the anti-Asian hate crimes. It was a short-lived project. I only had 7, 8 episodes that were released on YouTube. It's still on there. So I didn't touch it afterwards until this year when A4 released their micro grant opportunity. So I never expected this to turn into a physical show. It only lived virtually, but a big part of it was how can we bring the physical space? How can we create a safe space for healing and to celebrate culture and our identity in the wake of all these tragic events that were happening? So I decided, let's turn the Blue Room into something physical. So I created this one-man show. It is a multilingual, multicultural show with music, comedy, and a whole lot of stuff. And it is based on and presented in the form of a late-night talk show, kind of like The Daily Show. So there's a host, like I did before, with all these correspondents and all of our in-house interns, all played by me. So it's a total of 7 characters. Now, the thing was that even though it's one-man show, the biggest thing that I learned was that it does not take just one person to make a one-man show happen. For anybody who does theater, sometimes it takes years to craft the script. And within 2 months, I wrote this, it became a one-man show. So it was very hard to do with just one single person. For the first month and a half, it was a very lonely journey of just being stuck here, just writing my own thing, just getting the script up. And so by the time it hit September, it just seems like, hey, so have you found a space here? I'm like, no, not yet. So I started reaching out to everybody that I knew, and through an actor friend named Alex Chester, who's part of the mixed Asian media group. She got me connected with Yuko, who is one of the members of Pride Produce. And Pride Produce is a artist co-sharing space out there. So usually when it comes to theater, you rent out a space, man, it costs like $500,000 an hour. You're like, what? So obviously I couldn't afford that on my own, and I was going to use the micro grant for this space. But they were so generous and they said, hey, we'll waive the entire fee. So you don't have to pay for this. We'll give you a space grant. So I was like, bet, lovely. But I don't have a director. I have this entire thing in my head, it's on the page, but I didn't know how to put it in the physical world. So through Yuko, I got connected with Chino, who would later become my director. Mind you, I got the space and director less than 2 weeks before I was gonna put it up. So it was mayhem out there. And the entire $500 was spent on my artist. It was spent on giving it to my director because she was like, hey, dude, like this is less than 2 weeks. You want me to put this as a priority? You can't just be paying me like $250. So I was like, no worries, I got you. Take the whole damn thing. We're gonna be married for the next week and a half. And I performed it on a Friday, September 23rd. That past Wednesday, I filmed all the videos. And this is one of the characters, his name is Long Song. Every guest that comes on to this show, this talk show, is based off of a real incident that has happened. So in this case, it was based off a Japanese jazz pianist who was attacked back in September 2020 outside of 135th subway station. And the doctor said that he would never be able to perform and play piano again, but he survived, he managed, and he got through it. So every character was based off of that. And we also had a QR code at the beginning when people walk in, the Blue Room QR code, where it lists a whole bunch of resources from Asian American Mental Health Collective, Stop Asian Hate, Asian American Advancing Justice, just to name a few, Apex for Youth, They Can't Burn Us All, a whole bunch of different organizations, as well as the sources for every single statistic and event that actually did happen within that show. And at the end, we had a little donation button. And now, after that show, it's a 1 hour show. After that, we had a Q&A, so we could get feedback from the audience. For me, this was more of a prototype, but we hope to keep performing it in the future. So if you know any spaces, let me know. I'm not done yet. I have probably 1 minute left. So the thing about this piece is that, kind of like what Caroline was mentioning, right? That most theater spaces are predominantly white, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But for an Asian American, I wanted to see my people. I wanted to see our own faces out there. And yes, it was probably like 99% Asian. And so we packed out the whole place. I was like, probably only 30 people would show up. 55 came, and it was a wonderful event. And people came up to me saying, hey, like, we cried, we laughed. I loved your Cantonese rap song, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking to expand this. We're gonna take this across the country if we want to. A4, I know we got the space here. Let's talk, because hey, we got a projector here. We can make it happen. I'll pitch it to you right now. I think we can do this. So it's called the Blue Room. We have an Instagram page, and we also streamed it live. We had a live streaming on TikTok as well, because we had a lot of people who couldn't actually physically be present in New York City. So we had people tuning in from Macau, from Brazil, from Puerto Rico, and Indiana to show support for the show. 1,200 views online, 55 people in person. Even got like $16 from TikTok. So thank you, TikTok. We're not sponsored by them yet. So yes, so this is called the Blue Room. My name is Rob Chen. Thank you guys for listening to this conversation, and I hope to see you at one of our performances. Peace.
Hi everyone, my name is Leong. I am a novelist. My novel, which side are you on, actually came out this week. Hey. I have presented at an A4 town hall probably like 5 years ago, so it's really nice to be back here in the space. I also am the administrative director of the Brooklyn Zen Center, and I just moved back to New York after living for 2 years at a Zen temple. And so when this opportunity came up, I thought I would offer that to the community. I was paired with an organization called Communities Resist that does tenants' rights organizing. They're based in Williamsburg, and they do very like on the ground direct work, like helping tenants when the landlords don't turn on the heat, accompanying tenants to court when they're in legal issues. Really lovely community of people. So we gathered for 2 sessions in Martha P. Johnson Park in Williamsburg. The first one I taught kind of like a basics meditation. The second one I taught a walking meditation. And I thought actually, rather than kind of like talk about what we did, I would lead right here 2-minute meditation. Anyone who's interested, you don't have to participate, you can just sit there, which is what meditation is anyway. It's up to you. But just questions, who's like, who has a meditation practice, who's not for, okay, oh, well, a lot of people, who's been wanting to like try it. Okay. A lot of the folks I talked to at Communities Resist started some sort of practice during the pandemic, of course, mixed like at home. So you can stay in your chairs and just take kind of a moment to feel your feet on the ground, feel your sitting bones, firmly in your chair. If it feels comfortable, you can just try coming off the back of your chair so you're sitting upright. See if you can let your shoulders kind of relax down your back a little. For those of us who work in front of computers, that can be an area of tension. So you can notice and relax your throat. You can let your hands just kind of rest gently on your thighs. If it feels comfortable, you can try resting your tongue against that ridge that's just behind your teeth, the top of your mouth. And that can help relax your throat muscles. Take a moment to just notice the quality of your breath, in and out. Not trying to do anything in particular. Seeing if it's long or short, deep or shallow. A common misperception, and one that I had going into meditation, is that you're somehow supposed to empty your mind and zen out, which I think is very difficult, actually, and I don't know if that's possible. So I invite you to actually just bring a sense of curiosity to whatever thoughts are going through your head, because the mind won't just produce thoughts. It's just what it does. So whatever's going on, just notice it. Kind of like a child playing in the corner. You can either close your eyes, or you can let them look downward at about a 45-degree angle and let your gaze go soft. If you find your mind wandering, you can just bring it back to the breath. And now we'll ring the bell 3 times to start. We'll sit for about a minute, and then I'll ring it 1 time to finish. people trying that. I just wanted to leave you with two quick thoughts. One being that whatever happened for you just then was actually perfect. There's no such thing as meditating badly. So whatever was going on, that was great. And the second is, just to name, this is just one of many kinds of meditation. It's called Zazen. And it's rooted through a lineage that traces back from Japan to China to India. And I think meditation is wonderful for everyone. And for those of us in the Asian diaspora, what I love about doing meditation in a space like this is that probably someone in almost everyone's family or community or ancestral village or community did some form of meditation. So it's really cool and kind of trippy to be able to sit here in Brooklyn together and do that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nguyen. I am an illustrator and designer. And my culminating event was opening to my gallery show in Soho at Berger. And but my show is really it's called Drawn Together, the gallery show. But the event is really about community and collaboration. And the whole project started about 9 months ago in January, and I had drawn this picture for Movie Bookstore, and they were just opening in December. And my background is in publishing, so I really wanted to help support her and help support Asian American AAPI authors and to get their voice out there. And if you don't know, like many of the reasons why we don't learn about our history in school is because it's not mandated by the state to teach Asian American history. Right now, it's 4 states that are passed a law to mandate Asian American history be taught in schools. But growing up, I never learned about it. I'm not sure about you guys. But I wanted to help her amplify Asian American voices. And she opened her store back in December of 2021. And I kind of thought, like, who's crazy enough to open a brick and mortar bookstore in the middle of a pandemic, right? When everyone's going to Amazon. So I really wanted to support her. And so I just drew this picture for her bookstore, and I said, you can use it whatever way you want. You can sell it, you can put it on prints, you can make tote bags, and she actually made tote bags out of it. And it was really popular. And I thought, well, maybe if this was so successful for her, I could do this for the rest of Chinatown. So I ended up doing a gallery show at Pearl River Mart, and these are like maybe 7 of the 25 drawings I did. But it really is about collaboration, because I couldn't have done this by myself. And kind of fortuitously, when I was at her store telling her about what I was going to do, I met the Mott Street girls. They were their card there. They were the card there, and I had no idea who they were. And so I just picked up their card and I contacted them and said, "Would you like to help me with my show? And you can help me curate the different places that you think are meaningful." And so they did. They said, "Of course, we'll help you." And so they were really instrumental. And we met every week. We talked a lot about the process. And before I got the grant from A4 and before we got Program Mark involved, we didn't really know where it was going to go, like where it was going to host it. And we had some people offer us space, but we wanted to donate all the proceeds to some Asian American charity, some Chinatown charity to help rebuild the community. So that being said, a lot of places wanted to charge us and couldn't really afford to pay a fee and then still donate money. But through their Monster Girls connections, they were able to contact Program Mark, and Program Mark agreed to host the show immediately. And so again, so a lot of the proceeds will go to actually the Chinatown Mural Project, which are painting murals in Chinatown. They're trying to find wall space and painting different murals. So I guess going back to this original drawing and amplifying Asian American voices, that was really my whole kind of genesis or catalyst for this whole project. And at the opening, which happened September 10th, it was really moving to me to see all these different people from the community come together. Like a lot of self-store owners came, and a lot of people in the community came, like different groups that I had worked for. And on the side, I also teach self-defense. I do a self-defense project or program with my friend Kit, and we have been teaching self-defense from Flushing all the way up to Washington Heights, and that is through actually an Asian American Federation grant. And so again, like going back to the theme of collaboration, a year ago, around September this time, one of my friends approached me to teach the self-defense course, and he worked for Jason Lee of Daily Pay, and they wanted to put on this self-defense seminar, but one of the caveats was you had to be able to speak Chinese fluently, and I cannot. I can speak a little bit, but not great. And so I reached out to my friend Kit, and he agreed immediately to help. And so we wouldn't have been able to have this program if he didn't agree. So again, it's really a collaboration that made all these things happen. And I can't really tell you how much everyone helped me in this. Like I got so much support from my friends, when I was drawing these things, and some of these drawings took like 30 hours to do, and I did them digitally in Procreate, but like I didn't want to copy and paste and move things around because I wanted all the lines to be organic and original. So just to pay kind of homage to the original architects who built these things hundreds of years ago. So that's really my show, and that's my show is actually on now until December 28th at 4 Mark, so you can stop by and check it out. And if you buy a piece, the proceeds will go to the Chinatown Mural Project. And again, another funny thing that happened when I was working on this show and when I was working on these pieces is someone saw this image on the website, and they actually reached out to me to work on a bilingual children's book. And so my background is really publishing, children's book publishing. I'm a designer and illustrator for 20 years in publishing. And so I agreed to work on it with her, and we're sending the files to the printer today. So I just finished them. We're sending so I guess it's really about everyone working together, like everyone they may contribute something maybe you think is small, but really if we can all work together, something great can happen. And I hope to collaborate with some of you guys in the future on anything. So that's my thought.
Here. Wow, it's really hard to follow up after all of this talent. So I just want to say that I am a filmmaker and I am a storyteller, but I've been working with mostly the younger generation of kids. I just finished a residency at the Children's Museum of the Arts, where it's a space for younger artists, and they're great. They really take children's art very seriously, and they foster a kind of spirit joyfulness in creating, but from a very young age. And I feel that that's sort of lacking in our community, in the Asian community, because I came from first generation. My parents came after the Vietnam War, and I was dropped into downtown Brooklyn, not speaking a word of English. And I remember being sort of isolated and being a child. I mean, it's great that we have the agency to speak, to amplify our voices, but imagine if you were a kid. I mean, it's very bewildering. So my project was to kind of cultivate kind of the sense of self for the children. When I came, Sesame Street did not have any kind of visibility in terms of Asian American, I mean, does anybody know about like November last year? The landmark of that is that we now have an Asian American puppet on Sesame Street. I mean, it's taken so long. I mean, Sesame Street's been around for a long time. So I wanted to kind of address that in space. And I really am so grateful for nonprofit organizations that are all around New York, especially the New York Public Library, especially the Chatham Square Library, and I got to work with Christy Lao. She is an amazing, like, children, librarian. She knew all of the children that we worked for, and my proposal was to do a pop-up project where the children are, cultivated their like sort of identity. Like, what do they look like? We start asking, how do you represent yourself from the very get-go? From the, we all came at it from different routes, but what if somebody nurtured you, saying, what do you look like? And how can we put you in a context that you're comfortable? So all of these things are done by children from age, the workshop was designed for 6 to 9, but the youngest child that came was 4 years old. I think this is what he did. And most often people underestimate children. And I work with children a lot, and I do not tell them what or how to think. I always say to them, I'm here to help you to get your ideas out, to articulate your opinion. It matters. Of course, you have to listen to your parents, and like we say, don't cross the street, get run over and splat, you're dead. So like things like that. But when it comes to creativity, I am so humbled by the sense of creativity that younger artists have. So let me see. And the demographic here is represented by a fair amount of boys and girls. But what you don't see behind these images are some of these children are very young, new English speakers. They've been speaking English for only a year. And this little boy who's 4, he doesn't speak any English, but there's a visual language that you can communicate through that binds us and that kind of, create beauty and joy. And at the end of the workshop, I asked the children to come up, with the grant money. We got all the funding, and and the partnership with the CMA was amazing. This is a project that I developed while I was in residence there, because I felt like in the younger educational space of education, it's very, it doesn't address, children of color, and they have a lot more kind of specific challenges to their context. For instance, when I asked them, take all of this supply home with you, please continue your creativity. One girl said, I can't. And I asked her why, and she said, I'm too busy studying. So this breaks my heart a little bit, because I feel like the Asian American space of education for children are so tough. They are so pragmatic. Children are not allowed to be creative. And I think that creativity is the key to 21st century kind of advancement. It takes creativity and vision and courage to be who you are. And that's essentially what being Asian American is. We're Asian in a very different context. There are a lot of Asian people outside of the US, but only a very few handful of us are living here, expressing ourselves here, and we're bridges to, the world. And so the younger generation is also that. And so I'm going to just share with you some of the art that's happening. This little girl, she's one of the non-English speakers, and she kind of drew herself, and there was this little bit of mylar, and she cut it out to represent the glasses that she was wearing. And then this little boy, he really was into nature film, and he was a little bit, he was very cute and chubby, and and he represented himself as a penguin. He's so adorable, and he gave us a little bit of a share where he actually did this very National Geographic voice, and I should post that, and the voice, as you can see, this is the wild penguin looking after, the wild bear in, Antarctica for food. And so we had a whole share part after this, which was really lovely. And this boy, a boy and his dog, is representing himself in kind of, you know, a very like, I don't know, like moon-like kind of landscape. And I love that we really should like invest in creativity as a community to the very youngest, like, you know, artists. So that's sort of like why I did what I did. And I, last thing is that to amplify more of Asian presence, I have a film coming out on the 19th of October for the Series Festival. It's going to be online. I was able to talk to a really wonderful artist whose art practice is bread making. So I hope that you guys would support that and watch it. And he has a shop in Carroll Gardens. It's called ACQ Bread, which is Anti-Conquest Bread Co. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to build allyship with the Children's Museum and the New York Public Library. And it's really good to reach out and to amplify your own voices, but also to cultivate allyship. Okay, I hope you don't sound too much like a teacher. You know. Thank you.
I'm Xiaoyan, and I at Sarah D. Roosevelt Park. It was the Roar for a Resource Festival that Lisa and Justine helped connect me to, and I created this mail station where people can come write a letter and put it in the slot, and anything that was submitted would be sent stamped afterwards. And my hope was just that even though we can communicate really fast by text or call, that it doesn't always feel connected. So sometimes something tangible and physical, and that takes longer, can be meaningful or as meaningful. Yeah, so next. So I'm gonna host another one this Sunday, 12 to 3 at Elizabeth Street Park and Elizabeth Street Garden. And you can come and enjoy the garden, write a letter, and it will be mailed if you submit it to the box. So yeah, please, if you wanna write a letter, you can come here or on your own, send one to somebody you love.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. My name is Annika Cheng. I'm here on behalf of Alison, Choe, and Chen here tonight, but they're my collaborators in this project. I worked with Ava and Alison on their community project, Sisters in Self-Defense, which is a community project which teaches vulnerable community members how to defend themselves through Wing Chun, which is taught by our teacher, Choi. We meet every Saturday in Chinatown, and they were lovely enough to invite me to their class every Saturday. So I've been training with them this past summer. I'm a vibrant or multimedia artist living in New York, but for context, I'm a recent grad and I was living in Baltimore for the past 4 years, and I was just moving back to New York. And I'm sure we're all aware of the uptick of violence against Asian American people. So coming back to New York, my parents were nervous for me. I was a bit nervous about if I was going to be able to defend myself, or if New York was even a safe place to live, which is really scary because it's a place I grew up and know and love, and it can be terrifying to see a place that you feel like you know has changed so much when you're not there. So I felt very fortunate to have been matched with Sisters in Self-Defense for this project, because it gave me the opportunity to learn Wing Chun and also develop this project in collaboration with Ava and Alison. Thank you. Sorry. So I met with the class every Saturday for the past month and a half, and the original idea behind this collaboration was to make some sort of uniform that would link all the students together, but I wanted to take the class first and get to meet everybody before I decided on what the project was specifically. And after meeting all of the amazing people in this class, all of which are femme-identifying Asian American people, we decided, oh, here's a photo. Here's our lovely teacher, Ping. Yeah, I think this is Ava and this is Alison. Anyway, yeah. Through getting to know everybody, I realized that there's much more to self-defense than just the physical aspects or learning the techniques. There's also an emotional aspect and being able to stand firm in yourself and know that you can defend yourself. And thinking about both the physical and emotional ways that self-defense can manifest, I wanted to do something that was able to encapsulate both of these things and not just like a uniform we can all wear together to look cute, you know? So in my time training with everybody, I got to know what makes each person feel safe, and through conducting many interviews with each of the students, I got to get to know their needs in self-defense. So I can explain a few of the items that you see here. This was a gear bag requested by Alison. She's been training in self-defense for pretty much her whole life. So to her, she felt safe already. She didn't really need anything to support her, but she was like, this would be useful for me in my self-defense journey. This was for Ava. She only started training with Sisters in Self-Defense, so it's super recent, and she always carried a tactical flashlight with her to keep her safe. But she found it was completely useless when it's in like the bottom of your bag. You can't reach it if somebody's gonna bug you or whatever. So she was like, I would love for a way to have this accessible to me on a daily basis. So I worked with her to develop this pocket that can be attached to any bag you're wearing, so she can always have that accessible to her. And then here's a photo of me and this lovely student named Gloria. We joined the class around the same time, and because we were a little later to the class, we were developing our preliminary skills at the same time and constantly sparring with each other. And because both of us were so early in our self-defense journeys, we don't really know what made us feel safe. So I modeled these gloves after the self-defense gloves that we use in class. This is one of them. And it was it's more like aesthetic than useful, but it's a reminder that we spent that time together and we put in that energy together in developing our skills. And also I'm a strong believer as an artist that oftentimes your body knows things before your mind does. And I was very drawn to these floral patterns and very decisive in choosing these patterns. All of the fabric which was bought using the grant money. And I think looking back now, it has a lot of meaning for me, thinking about how flowers were typically a motif used to represent femininity in Chinese history, but also thinking about how these blue and white flower patterns remind me of a lot of porcelain you might see in Chinese porcelain, I guess. And it made me think about drawing the comparison between porcelain and martial arts. I'm sure everybody has that like glass counter in their house where they can't touch any of the porcelain and it's maintained but never used. And I think martial arts is very similar. It's a skill you want to maintain and keep looking good, but hopefully you'll never have to use it. So yeah, that was my project. I will be training with Sisters in Self-Defense for the indefinite future and helping them with administrative work. And I hope that as new members join the class, I'll be able to continue this project. So thank you so much.
We're almost there, everyone. Thank you for your patience in getting all ready.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Janggo, and I like to describe myself as a creative community organizer, but most importantly, a Gemini. And right now I am a social work student at CUNY. And I had the pleasure of collaborating with Sapna NYC, which is a women's empowerment, a women's empowerment organization based out of the Bronx, Parkchester to be specific. But don't worry, they provide the services citywide, virtually, if that's what you need. And said services include, assistance for applying to benefits, computer literacy classes, learning English,
And by the way, Sapna, I should mention, means dream in these different Sanskrit languages. Hindi, in Bangla, it means Shopna, actually, the way that it's pronounced. And I have to say, it was a dream to provide a space for these ladies to have fun. Like, I know they look really determined in that picture, but in the zone. But the feedback that we got from this event, we laughed, drank cha, samosas, and talked about the importance of making time for yourself. Because here's the thing, ladies, this is the women's circle, by the way, and you know, I always think about the story of women like my mother who came to this country at such a young age. You know, they were plucked out of, they were plucked out of their homeland and were brought into this whole new city without the network that they had when they were a kid. You know, and I think about it because, you know, right now I'm a 24-year-old girl. I can't even imagine having a kid right now. I can't even imagine getting married right now. You know, my lock's doing on my phone. It's like a cartoon. So this women's circle, and these women, you know, they overextend themselves. They always put the health of their family and their kids before their own. So when we had a chance to, when I had, again, I had the pleasure of joining this women's circle, we had this theme of telling them, what do you do for yourselves? How do you relax? And again, this was all happening in Bangla, but the thing was, I didn't even know how to say the word relax in Bangla. I never even heard my mom say that, you know, I never even saw my mom do anything for herself. So, but interestingly, these women all knew what that meant, but they never really had the tools to do something fun. So with that grant money, you know, as you can see, I went to Michael's and I got their own paint sets, their own canvases, and their own brushes. And I was telling these ladies, and they all took this home. I insisted they took them home. I even gave them extra canvases or whatnot. And I was telling these ladies, like, look, that was $5, $5, $5. You can get these for yourself. I insist that you get these for yourself. Don't give them to your kids. Have fun and do it for yourself. And so, yeah, I really hope that, you know, this happened a week ago. So I hope since then that they've designed and created something for fun on their own. And I just want to note that, look at the art that they created. They all coincidentally created like environmental, you know, scenic flowers. And it just reminded me, you know, again, like this woman painted the flag of Bangladesh. And we actually describe what that flag means. All of the green represents the beautiful lusciousness, forestry, right? And the red represents the bloodshed during the war for independence. But that's the thing, they long for that beautiful garden that they maintained back home, but now they don't have anything because they live in an apartment or something like that. And it was very bittersweet, I guess I would say. Like, what is the next? I actually didn't get a chance to read it. So, one woman shared that this was the first time, oh yes, that she laughed in a really long time, that she's been dealing with a lot of things. That same woman actually offered to make the tea, make the cha. Like I was in the kitchen, in the building, in the house. The office is a house, and I was literally washing the pot, about to boil the water. I was gonna do it myself. I know how to do myself, but this woman insisted, no, wait, let me do. She was having so much fun that she wanted to, you know, extend that joy even more so. Like, let me make some delicious tea, delicious cha for my fellow ladies, and I let her have it. I'm like, oh yes, okay, let's go. So yeah, thank you all again.
Project of untitled landscape. It brings together people who are part of an affinity group who already have a certain degree of comfort with each other and asks them to share their viewpoints and life experiences with each other. The groups typically range from 5 to 8 people, and after a few different rounds of class, participants tend to learn more about each other and become even more comfortable with each other than they were before. Then they are asked to put into a group timeline the moments in their lives that, taken together, make up who they are as people. As you can imagine, the answers to this question vary widely. And when they show up next to each other in a collective timeline, one can start to see the different contours of the individual lives. Ultimately, I'm hoping to superimpose each participant's contribution to the timeline so that there are many different representations of meaningful moments. Collectively, to my mind, these will represent a landscape of human life. For this iteration of the project, I wanted to bring together Asian heritage female identifying participants. This is something I've been thinking about for a while, because Asian females have been targeted in the past few years in greater numbers. And I know I've been feeling more vulnerable and more fearful because of it. Bringing together a group of Asian females reminded me how strong we are, how deeply we feel about what's happening around us, and how important it is to maintain a safe space for each other. The project occurred September 18th, and 4 participants came together, were present for each other, and contributed to a workshop that spanned 2 hours. A communal timeline was created, with each person's contributions anonymously affixed to a long sheet of paper that represented Earth to the present moment. In the future, this will join communal timelines belonging to other affinity groups and be available online so that people can view the landscape of their lives in conversation with the lives of others.
Hi, my name is Philip Poon, and I'm an architect in Brooklyn. My project is an illustrated zine about Chinatown, which is available for free tonight and also at the hyperlink press table at the upcoming printed matter art book fair. A free digital copy is also on my website. My approach to human care is to humanize the complicated and unspoken dynamics of neighborhood change in Chinatown. Pre-pandemic, it seemed like anti-Asian racism wasn't recognized by culture at large. Only when highly public acts of violence were documented by the media did people start to accept the idea that Asians could be the victims of racism. Many Asian American artists effectively used the power of imagery to respond. As an architect, I believe there is a direct relationship between space and these larger social and cultural issues. Spaces can never be neutral. It is my hope that spaces in Chinatown and beyond champion the shared community of its diverse demographics. Thank you to A4 for their support for this project. I'm hoping that it will initiate a much needed discussion about these spaces and how they can better reflect a more inclusive future. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Jochico, and I can't be there today for the share out in person. I actually have a severe allergic reaction right now, but I am so grateful to A4 and especially Justine for the opportunity for this grant and how closely we work together, and wanted to share a little bit about the workshop that we created about it called Embodying Pleasure as Resistance. We found a home for the workshop right at the A4 offices, and we had it on September 30th. I believe you'll be seeing a video of some of the movement that we created, and it was a movement workshop that included yoga, dance, and meditation to bring a sense of curiosity to how we view pleasure and bring some joy to our inner child. And we had around 40 people sign up, all of different movement backgrounds and different understanding of movement and mindfulness practices. And it was really beautiful to see everyone be so open
to the ideas that we brought, especially around improvisational play and connection with each other. So it had three sections. There was connection with the self, connection in pairs, and connection in community. And the video that you will likely be seeing is the embodiment of the earth element, which was at the community level towards the end. And again, yeah, just so grateful for this opportunity to pour in all of the different practices that I and my co-facilitators had. Noah who's a recipient of the microgram as well, is a co-facilitator along with Melanie Dickinson and my friends Uga or Wes and DJ Balanik, who are a musical duo called Batan. They provided live music, which again was also powerful to have movement that was new, that we were experiencing live as a group. And yeah, just wanted to thank everyone again for this opportunity. We're hoping to host it 1 or 2 more times before the end of the year, and are also.
It went on for a little bit, so I'm just gonna. This is the video from the workshop. This is some dancers embodying the earth element. And then this is the group at the end. It was really amazing. Okay, we just have a couple more that I'm just gonna go through, but they're all really great stories. Beata Moon, she's a Juilliard graduate. She's a pianist. She performed Chinese tunes at the Hamilton Madison House in Lower East Side with and for the senior choir there, and they had a grand old time and are actually a little clip of them. Okay, and then just a few words from Beata. Having been raised with a Western classical music tradition, I just assumed that everyone would appreciate that type of music, and the seniors would want to hear piano recital of Mozart, Beethoven, etc. I learned from talking with the people who knew the seniors best, they preferred to hear Chinese tunes they were familiar with. They wanted me to play songs they knew and even had song requests, which included some old Western songs like One Day When We Were Young, It's a Small World, and Red River Valley. So I asked some Chinese music colleagues of mine what they might suggest and found piano arrangements of a couple of famous Chinese tunes as well as a book of Chinese folk tunes. I also wanted to introduce them to living Chinese composers here in the US. I also learned that there's a different system of notating the chords and tunes that they all understood, but was unfamiliar to me. I really enjoyed playing for them and hearing their enthusiasm as they sang along. And Madison also appreciated the collaboration. And next we have Winton Wong and Prisca Choe. They collaborated on, I think, Chinatown block parties. Yeah, familiar with them. It's like really fun. And these photos are by Cindy. Yeah, earlier when Cindy was presenting, we didn't get to see some of her lovely photos here. Now you can see lots of vibrant colors. And so I'm just going to say a few words about this project. The block party is a project born out of wanting to create safe and intergenerational spaces for joy, music, and dance. Both of us are part of a collective called Box Set. Box Set is a creative collective of multidisciplinary artists based in New York City, exploring the ideas of culture, legacy, and belonging across borders and generations. Converging from a variety of fields, including events, film, journalism, photography, music, and beyond, the artists nurture meaningful relationships, intimate moments as the building blocks for revolution. Our practice is born out of community events and will always be rooted in our care and love for our neighbors. So I can share a little bit more. The block parties are our first project together, and we're grateful for the opportunity to work together and serve the Chinatown and larger diaspora community. The block parties happen at the corner of in Moscow with our DJs in a renovated waffle stand that we've nicknamed The Box. Our DJs spin music from the past and from the Southwest Asian, North African region, the Philippines, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, with the goal of bridging borders and generations. So Prisca's part in this, if you go back to the other slide, these beautiful paintings that you can see here, they are genre paintings from the Joseon dynasty. Daily life was still from the perspective of privileged men, as painting was often an occupation passed from father to son, and often leering and paternalistic. Pulled from these paintings to not only give the figures a brief respite, but also celebrate the work of Kaesong, women of the slave class owned and educated by the government to be courtesans, and Mundang shamans, whose work shaped and maintained Korean culture through entertainment, medicine, and folk magic. Their work is often erased and even discriminated against. This erasure was echoed in this past movement against the rise of violence against the Asian diaspora. The experience of rage and grief at the violence that targeted women and elders was doubled by the frustration of having our experiences misrepresented by people who have not done the work to build relationships in our community. Instead, they would often talk over women, often women in queer-led initiatives that build sustainable systems of resistance. This collection is part of this larger series of events celebrating the folks who truly bear the brunt of building culture, as well as creating a space for rest and joy. The goal is to build a collection throughout the block parties, and this funding helped hit the goal of 8 new pieces. So as you can see in the photos, we are very happy with the turnout at this last block party, with many returning folks as well as new dancers. Seeing families, elders, and young folks all come together on the street, dancing and talking with each other is the impact that we worked for. Then we've got 2 more. Okay, Ellen did a coloring project in Elmhurst, Queens. They worked with children. I know, so cute. It took place at Moore Homestead Playground. Ellen designed 3 drawings, including 2 small drawings for individual children and 1 big drawing for collaboration, based on the neighborhood street style and immigrant cultures and backgrounds using a Halloween theme. There's some photos there. Great. Next, we have Hong-Ling, who gave a free 3-hour pottery workshop for 14 self-identified AAPI individuals at the 22nd Street Y. The intention for the workshop was for participants to experience the joy of making and working with their hands. So Hong-Ling gave a demo, and because they were at different skill levels, everyone had different questions. Hong-Ling went around the room to give each person some help. Each participant made 2 to 3 items. At the end of the workshop, they brought their pieces together to look at what they had created collectively and share their experience of making something with their hands. Last but not least, we have Karesia Batan, who presented a free 1-hour Filipino folk dance featuring a live Philippine Rondalla band demonstration of, like I said, Filipino folk dance, and Tinickling workshop, which is that here, and that is the national dance of the Philippines. And yeah, and which is very timely because it is Filipino American Heritage Month, the month of October. So there are tons of events going on around the city you should check out. But that wraps our 30 What Can We Do projects. Let's give everyone a hand. It's an amazing experience. All the artists did an amazing job. We want to do it again, and we're going to. We got the funding. So we are going to open applications on January 9th, so that everyone can rest, enjoy the holidays, and come back and get ready to care for the community again. February 20th is the application deadline, so we're giving folks a little over a month, and then the project period will be March, April, mid to mid-May, so folks will have about 2.5 months to carry out their projects in Manhattan, Chinatown, and Flushing, Queens. So if anyone here hasn't or is interested, know that it's coming, and maybe you were inspired by some of the ideas that you saw today. Are there any other slides? Oh, I think that's it. Yeah. So, evening is what's for you. If you need to take off, thank you for being here. There's wine, there's tonic water. We also have just like tap water. Feel free to introduce yourselves to us, to each other. Thank you again. Night.
And Lisa, I have to run, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Georgia.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you